So tired. So, a couple of things for this one. Um, there are these guys that aren't listening to the entire like logical structure that justifies what's happening and all that. And what they're trying to do is, so as I say something, it's got all the precedent that lined up to me being able to say it and for it to have that meaning there. They're just looking for those moments where I change things and trying to mimic as far as they can manage the values that were around that moment so that they can go around saying, I'm no different than him. You have to treat me like they'll be like, hey, thanks, little bro. You just showed me everything I needed to do to look enough like you to confuse people. Or they'll just be like, they're confused. They think that if they say what was said to them back to us, even though they're not saying it with the right logical precedent, that it'll have the same effect, or that they can just use violence to assert that effect. Um, and another thing, I'm noticing the strategy here of like saying that there's a perspective game that you're playing where, and I've talked about this a couple times before, where if you don't, we're responding to everything that's happening, right? And we need to have a response for this, and from every perspective. And so that means that at this point, that's all we can think is happening from this perspective. And I'm also like, well, yeah, but you have to respond to everything that's happening. So by that point, you have to admit that too many things lined it up against the little boy's will. So at that point, you can't get to that point in which you can act out that little revenge, sexual fantasy, or whatever, without straight up just ignoring the whole practice you say you're participating in. So, yeah. And then I gotta make a comment about the moving on without the kids. Yeah, so there's a couple things that happened. I had to accept I didn't accept it, I was fucking with them. But the argument of, alright, if you take that there, you're desperate. Um, the argument of kids not knowing better and this and that, and it led to all of us saying for a second, well, then we all knew better. And that shit just killed our entire fucking reality. You know what I mean? Like if we all knew what we were doing, dude, is there still, bro? What is there still? Okay, if we all knew what we were doing, then that means that all of us are just criminals from every fucking direction, and that's why we all have. That's why we're all suffering. And so you chose everyone knew better just so you could hold me down as a concept because you didn't want me to be above yours, and I think that's fucking hilarious. I don't think it's funny. I think it's amusing. That you would rather fucking like the hold that life has on us just become more aggressive towards all of us by you saying that everyone including me knew better, just to get me killed with you. Like that's like a real desperate like suicide, um, kill them all because I didn't get what I want attempt, and I think it's strange. um, but yeah, yeah, in order for you to line up the little point that you could claim justifies you doing that, you would have to have ignored a lot of precedent that prevents you from getting there. And you can keep saying, well, y'all kept going and this and that, but you're lying. You're adding values to try and make it okay to do this to me. And that's why here in this moment, I'm kind of just seeping into everything. I'm kind of just like passing all of the physiological boundaries that we don't even know how to define yet. And that's what this moment is right here. So, you just got a little harder to prevent it from happening. But yeah, that little perspective theory of there needing to be a response to that moment from this perspective and this perspective alone without any respect for the fact that you were obviously participating and setting it up so that you could have a conceptual strategy against mine, who was always figuring things out and trying to make everybody win, which you didn't believe in because you thought that life was limited and scarce. But that condition itself would have prevented it from occurring because it would mean that we've got an overflow of something recurring, and then into within a limitation. I killed someone. I just fucking murdered someone. I'm sorry. He kept holding me back. All right, I gotta go.